All right, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Sunny Decree, which I know is kind of interesting and out of place a little bit. But I'm here to talk about his amazing, blatant hypocrisy, and it's just crazy. So I was just on my phone on YouTube last night, and I happened to come across a video that said game over with some kind of earthy ball or whatever this is. This is the most confusing thumbnail I've ever seen. And it said the Bitcoin bubble is the end getting closer. So I watched it a little bit, and then I noticed the next video, literally the next day, is the most bullish Bitcoin video in 2018. What? So we got a little bit more of that juicy, drama, salty, molassesy, brown, sugary sauce today. So this sauce isn't as deeply rich and good as the BitConnect drama, but Sunny Decree once did actually promote BitConnect, as this Reddit article states. So it's basically, if you promote cryptocurrency-related scams, you're going to be called out on this subreddit. So now YouTuber Sunny Decree is on the list, but he stated that it's okay that he's on there because he did at one time promote BitConnect, and that it is possible that some folks' money was still tied up on the platform once it went tits up. Apparently that's a phrase. But at least he has the balls to accept that and has been actively warning people to get out for months now. So he also apologized to anyone who signed up with under him, unlike Crypto Nick and some of the various other BitConnect shills. So that's not really exactly what I'm here to talk about. But again, it's, not good. So it's this video here. The Bitcoin bubble, is the end getting closer?
Why I'm going to talk about this topic again. Well, a lot of people let me feel yesterday that you don't really like the technical analysis part.
Yeah, you don't like the technical analysis part because technical analysis never pans out to anything real. If you happen to have watched a YouTuber or you went on to a page, with technical analysis on a website or something like that, and it happened to turn out correct, well, that was the flip of a coin, and it was just a guess. Like I always say, I really try to avoid most technical analysis. I've made a couple videos where I talk about what I think the all-time high is going to be at the end of this year. But again, I clearly state that it's just me thinking about what the previous all-time high were and what it could be once it breaks that before it maybe starts to go down again by the time the end of the year comes around. But again, none of that stuff is set in stone. Don't rely on any of that. So, of course, nobody likes TA anymore because it always pans out to be wrong. Oh, we're in a bull market, and then it goes down. We're in a bear market, it goes back up. So nobody's correct about any of that. I've literally never met anybody that has been correct about it, including almost every single YouTuber. I know some YouTubers are just entirely TA. I know of at least two of them that are just entirely TA, and that's all they do is just sit in front of the screen, like me, I guess, and with charts, and they just paint together pictures for you. They do analysis, and those are all extremely interpretive. They're all extremely subjective, depending on how you make those bars and lines and keep things together, depending on where you put your Fibonacci graph or your Fibonacci chart, whatever you want to call it, wherever you actually put it at on the chart is very subjective, and it can lead to you saying, oh, well, Bitcoin's only going to get to 7,500 and then it's going to go up. Or if you put the chart a little bit lower, depending on where you want to put the all-time high. If you want to put it at the all-time high, it's going to be different. If you're going to put it at the recent all-time high, it's going to be different. So none of it is correct. It never has been. With the stock market, it's a little bit different because the stock market, there are bubbles, just like the dot-com bubble. The dot-com bubble was basically just everybody thinking that all these websites were the way of the future. And turns out they kind of were. I mean, websites kind of are the way of the future, but they were overly hyped in the early 90s, and it led to a bubble because in the stock world, in the actual commodity world, if something is overvalued, it's because people are, the stock might be $200 a share, and the next year they actually are making less money, but the stock went to $220 the next year. That's a bubble. That's overvalued. So a bubble doesn't necessarily go down to $0. It's just when something is overvalued, and then the bubble pops. just like we could see here. However, I don't claim bubble like some people. Rather, I call market manipulation, and I'll get into that in just a second. So we can see here that he starts going into some interesting things here. He starts showing the Steven Seagal and Floyd Mayweather deal when they were shilling that debit card. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was just some kind of crypto debit card in ICO that turned out to be a scam and scammed $60 million. That literally has nothing to do with a bubble. That has nothing to do with the price of Bitcoin or where we're at today. That just happened to be a scam. Scams happen all the time, not just in the crypto world. That doesn't mean that something is a bubble. So, Sonny Decree, what are you talking about? That has nothing to do with it. So there he goes with the exit scam ICO. Now he's talking about Steven Seagal and the Bitcoin with the Two Eyes founders as the ICO ends. Again, has nothing to do with a bubble. Then he starts talking about the Long Blockchain Corp, which was the Long Island Iced Tea Corporation that rebranded themselves as the Long Blockchain Corp, which he does show the TA for that, which this is what happened during that long block. So they were the Long Island Iced Tea Corporation. Then they decided for some reason, even though they had nothing to do with blockchain, nothing to do with crypto, they decided to rename themselves Long Blockchain Corp, which everybody bought their stock, and you could see how much it raised it. Very incredible. Again, that doesn't have any... That's kind of a bubble because it's overvalued, but what does that have to do with crypto exactly? It's just because they named themselves a crypto. That's not really directly tied to Bitcoin itself, other than the name. That's it. That doesn't really have anything to do with a bubble. Again, sir, Sonny Decree, man, what are you talking about? So he's got 20,000 views on this video because, of course, everybody, including myself, clicked on the Bitcoin bubble is the end getting closer. And I'm like, well, I'd like to see what somebody has to say about that. I'm on YouTube as well. Sometimes I watch other crypto, YouTubers just for the entertainment value or to see what they have to say or to see what's going on, maybe. Most of the time, I try to do my own research and I get my own stuff, my own articles and things like that. And then the next day, literally the next day, the most bullish Bitcoin video in 2018. So this is... what is even going on here? Now, it's okay if you're a YouTuber and you make a video called, Bitcoin is going down in price or Bitcoin is going up in price, and you give examples of why it's going down or what happened when they go down. So whenever I make a video of saying Bitcoin is dumping or Bitcoin is crashing, this, that, or the other thing, it always does, and the reason is because I always put these articles, well, not necessarily because I put the articles, but I always put articles talking about what I am talking about. So I mentioned the Korean FUD or the Chinese exit, this, that, and the other thing, and I put them all up on there so we can all get a good idea of what it is that is driving the price down, instead of just saying the most bullish Bitcoin or Bitcoin's in a bubble, and then showing things that have nothing to do with the price of Bitcoin going down. Those are just scams. That doesn't affect Bitcoin. That doesn't affect crypto as a whole. That's just a scam. Maybe it gives a little bad taste in people's mouths, but that's not the same thing, Sonny Decree. It's not the same thing, man. You need to try a little harder, my friend. So here's this video. Be amazed.
Before we're going to start this video, I have to show you this meme, which made me laugh today.
This is the worst meme I've ever seen in my life. Ever. This is the most useless meme I've ever seen. I cannot believe how bad this meme is.
Told a friend in January, don't worry. Don't check the prices for 6 months. He sent me this today. Is it too late now to say sorry? Don't you worry.
Why? What did that have to do with the... Am I just... What... Ah! My brain hurts. I think I need some Tylenol. No, I think I need some Coca-Cola. $10,000 paycheck, Coca-Cola. It's good for the holidays. Don't give Santa Claus cookies anymore. Give Santa Claus a nice Mexican Coca-Cola. Boom! 10,000. Get out of my face. Anyway, so people are very, very confused to these videos. Here's Kevin Svensson, who has a YouTube channel. I checked out a couple of his videos, and they're pretty realistic, but not a shill there or anything like that. But you know, I had to check them out. So, Sonny, why do you always make contradicting videos? One day it's gold cross bullish, the next day it's panic is near. You clearly have no idea what to expect, so you just take both sides, and then you just act like you warned us no matter what way it goes. Get real, dude. So that's exactly how TA goes. When people make TA videos, or they make both videos, they're like, "Oh, look, I told you so. The price went down." Well, you just said it could go either way, though. So don't sit there and tell me that you warned us no matter what happened, because you just gave examples of what both happens. And so I don't believe I've ever made a video where I think that like a TA video where I think Bitcoin is crashing, and I give examples and I say, oh well, Bitcoin might go up, and then the next day when it goes all the way down, I'm like, I told you guys. It doesn't work like that. That's how you take both sides, and how you always make yourself feel like you were always right. So some of the other videos, some of the other comments, they're pretty good. Cool, but your thumbnail and titles are way too confusingly clickbaity. Yeah, what does this mean? Game over with... What even is this? Is that like a water balloon or an earth or some kind of... It's a bubble, I guess. So it's a bubble. What does it mean? So the day before that, is this the golden cross going to start the crypto bull market? And then the Bitcoin bubble at the end is getting closer. Then the most bullish Bitcoin video, Bitcoin crash 2018 versus 2013 after another long-lasting. So dude, it's just all over the place here. So
guys, the title of the video is actually correct. Today we're not going to spread any FUD.
Today we're not going to spread any FUD, but maybe tomorrow. You know, maybe in a couple weeks we'll talk about how Bitcoin is going to crash, and then how it's going up. I only talk about if Bitcoin is going to is crashing if it's already crashing, or if it's already going up. So which I guess you could consider a little bit late, but I get on it hours after it's crashing, or at least the within that day. This is basically like saying, hey, Bitcoin is going to go up before it's going up, and then when it doesn't, he's just going to make a video about how it's in a bubble. So this is the world. This is the world we live in with YouTubers who are not realistic with you. And by the way, close your mouth just a little bit. Man, you got great teeth, Sonny Decree, but man, your mouth is, wow, it's big. Man, just chill it out. But this is the world we live in, where YouTubers are not realistic with you. They're just out for views. Would I like more views? Of course I'd like more views, because more views is more income. That's great. I mean, I'm not going to lie to your face about that. But the problem is I'm not just going to sit there and make a video that is just completely neutral, that'll just get me a ton of views, and that I can just do over and over and over again, like saying, I think Bitcoin is going to crash, or Bitcoin's in a bull market or bear market when it's not, and just be like, whoa, it might go up and it might go down, see you guys later, and then that way the next day when it goes up or down, I can just be like, oh, I told you so. So this is his bullish Bitcoin video with his extremely late news. Is Bitcoin banned in China from February 12th? Really late to the show, my friend. A video from May 31st that I got on May 31st. I literally made that video on May 31st. Way to be late. So now he's just like, oh no, it's going to be bullish, and let me just grab some old news, which basically makes it bullish. So you guys can check these videos out if you want, but be prepared for basically a beer bong of feces into your mouth, of old news and pure speculation of feces. And then the next day when he's wrong, he'll just make the video that proves he was right, even though he was wrong. So let me tell you what I think brought the price of Bitcoin way down. Was it a bubble? Now, you could say, or you could say not, that it's a bubble, because a bubble is anything that was overvalued and then sort of popped and went all the way down into a correction. However, I feel it's more manipulation. So, in the end, it's up to you what you think it is. However, I'm going to give my opinion that it was manipulation. So let me just tell you what futures are first. And I've got this lovely Investopedia up that is probably, obviously, the most legit website on the internet. But it gives a really good idea of what futures are. Futures are financial contracts obligating the buyer to purchase an asset or the seller to sell an asset, such as a physical commodity or a financial instrument, at a predetermined future date and price. Futures contracts detail the quality and quantity of the underlying asset. They are standardized to facilitate trading on futures exchanges. Some futures contracts may call for physical delivery of the asset, but not in this case. The futures market are characterized by the ability to use high leverage, very high leverage, so we're talking margin trading here, but the opposite ways, very high leverage, relative to stock markets, crypto in this case. Futures can be used to hedge or speculate on the price movement of the underlying asset. For example, a producer of corn could use futures to lock in a certain price and reduce risk. Or anybody could speculate on the price movement of corn, by going long. I think there was some kind of weird dog or something barking outside, and it was really confusing. So anybody could speculate on the price movement of corn by going long or short using futures. The primary difference between options and futures is that options gives the holder the right to buy or sell the underlying asset at expiration, while the holder of a futures contract is obligated to fulfill the terms of his contract. In real life, the actual delivery rate of the underlying goods specified in futures contracts is very low, as the hedging and speculating benefits of the contract can be had largely without actually holding the contract until expiry or delivering the good. For example, if you were long in a futures contract, you could go short in the same type of contract to offset your position. This serves to exit your position, much like selling a stock in the equity markets closes a trade. So what does that have to do with the price of Bitcoin falling? And now I've gone over this in the past, so we'll get rid of this Reddit article here. Don't need that no more. The CME Bitcoin futures, frequently asked questions. So I've been talking about futures off and on since just before they came out and ever since they came out. So here's the problem. When will CME Group launch Bitcoin futures contracts? So futures are honestly for whales for the most part. You really don't see any regular investors using futures. And I mean regular by people like you and me. You don't go to Coinbase and start busting out your futures contracts. You don't go to Kraken and start busting out futures contracts. Do they have margin trading? Yeah, some of them do. Well, I think Kraken might have shut theirs down, or you need a bigger account, something like that. But Coinbase doesn't, not anymore anyway. But a lot of, I think like BitMEX, if I said that right, has the biggest margin trading. You can do 100x margin trading on there, but good luck with that. I wouldn't touch that with a 75-foot pole, even if I was pretty sure the price was going to go down or up. It's just not a good, solid plan. You can make yourself some money, but you might as well go down to the gas station and buy yourself a $30 lottery ticket and start scratching away. So when will CME Group launch the futures contracts? And that's going to be on Sunday, December 17th. Sunday, December 17th. So these are all for whales. These are all for sort of institutional investors on Sunday, December 17th. So what happened? Let's do some digging. What happened around that time? Gee, I wonder. So let's just kind of bring it on in. Yeah, we'll keep that full. December 17th was our all-time high. And so it launched December 17th, and for a trade date of December 18th. So they launched 17th, but you really couldn't trade till the 18th, till the next day. They must have not have been ready. So let's see what happened on the 18th. Oh my! Oh no! We're going down. We're still going down, and we are stagnant. So what happened there? Was that futures? It seems like futures. So what can whales do with their money? With their massive amount of money? What happens if you were to go on GDAX or your favorite whatever exchange, just picture it in your mind, and you had $100,000, maybe you had $1 million, maybe you had more, and you hit the sell button with your Bitcoin with $1 million, and you wanted to sell all of your Bitcoin. Or what happens if you hit the buy button with all of that? With a market sell, I'm not talking about a limit sell. Well, what's going to happen is it's going to sell to every single person that currently has a limit order to buy. It's just going to sell it, boom, and it's going to crash that price. It's going to crash it right on down. And if you buy, it's kind of going to be the opposite. You're going to artificially raise a price. It's just one person doing that, and then everybody else is going to see it on that exchange. They're going to see it, and it's going to rise. Because let me tell you how a market buy works. Let's say you got 100 coins, and you have 100 people selling their coins, and they're all about the same price. So we all have them set, towards the $99, $100. The coin is about $100. And somebody comes along and they have some money. Maybe they have like $50, and there's only really 100 sellers right now, and all the coins are positioned approximately $100. So when you hit that sell, when you hit that buy, when you hit that sell button, what you're going to do is you're going to sell it to all those buyers all the way down. So some buyers only want to buy at $90, some only want to buy at $80, some take that big risk and they put it down to $70 in case it crashes. So what happens is when you go to buy it, or when you go to sell it rather to all those buyers, you're going to sell it to the first person for $99. Then you're going to sell it to the next person in line for $98. Let's say the next person in line has it for $97.50. And let me just say that everybody only wants to buy one, and then to so on and so on and so on. With a limit order, and you put it to say you want to sell at $100 only, it will only sell at $100. And as the price goes up, it's going to sell chunks and chunks and chunks, unless there's a huge volume to buy all of it at once. Whereas a market buy or market sell is just going to sell it to everybody that wants to buy, regardless of price. But it's going to take the highest price priority, and then it's going to keep going down and selling it to everybody that wants to buy it at a lower and lower price. So you can easily dump, the price of a coin depending on how much money you have. So, for example, on GDAX one time, I think it was years ago, somebody market sold Ethereum, and they flash dumped it all the way down to virtually nothing. And it was bought right back up. And this happened in the blink of an eye. So a lot of people got some Ethereum for very, very cheap. That's what that Coca-Cola does to you. $10,000. Boom! 10,000. So it was sort of a flash crash, and you can kind of do that. So when you start market buying and selling on an exchange, people see that price going up when you market buy. It's going to jack that price up a little bit. Of course, depending on how much you have, depending on the volume of the exchange, there's a lot of variables to it. But essentially, in a nutshell, it's going to raise the price. So what we see with that is that other people will start buying in. So let's say you market buy a ton of Bitcoin. You have $1 million, and you raise the price by $500 on an exchange, maybe even $1,000. Other people are going to get in on that too. They see that price super rising, and they're like, oh, buy, and they buy too, so that they can ride it up and then sell it. So the thing is if you ride it up by a 500, and then everybody else rides it up by another 500, and you sell, you just made a lot of money because you only sold, you only bought and raised the price by 500, then it went up by another 500, and then you just sell. And you market sell, and it goes right back down again, and you can do it over and over and over if you want to. So basically what I believe happened is that since the futures market came out, and the price of Bitcoin was nearly, at that time, nearly at $20,000, I think institutional investors realized that we were in a real hyperbolic increase in the trading charts. And it was going to go down at some point, because every time something goes way up, it goes way down. Unless it's a very slow move. As you can see, this very slow move resulted in a very slow move down. But this super high move here resulted in a pretty huge slump downwards. And it's just the way it goes. If something goes up too fast like that, people start to get a little nervous. All the sellers realize that it's going to go down soon because of the trend of it always doing that. And then they sell, and then once somebody sells, all of them sell. So institutional investors were aware of that had Bitcoin. And you might wonder who. Well, I can't really say who because we don't know. There was also, of course, the Mt. Gox sell-offs, but we'll ignore that for now. So when institutional investors or whales or whatever you want to call them were way at the top there, they just market sold and they started to crash it. Because what they want is to put in a short futures contract so that they can short the price of Bitcoin and get more Bitcoin. Because when you have millions of dollars and you see that Bitcoin is at 20,000, yeah, you can buy a lot of Bitcoin for millions of dollars, even at 20,000. But how much Bitcoin can you buy if you crash it? Way more. So they crashed it all the way down to nearly $6,000, which is 3 times, a little over, let's just call it 3 times for fairness here, 3 times the amount of Bitcoin you could have bought with your millions, and as opposed to the 20,000. So that's a better deal. So basically, institutional investors likely got together, decided they would just crash Bitcoin and set in futures contracts with the CME group in order to pick it back up at a very low price in the future. And that's likely what they did. So, here we go with institutional investors bashing Bitcoin and then turning around and basically saying that they were sorry that they did that, and then start to say, well, let's start buying Bitcoin. So Jamie Dimon runs JP Morgan, which JP Morgan has been buying up Bitcoin and has been thinking about institutionally investing into Bitcoin. Shortly after Jamie Dimon slams Bitcoin as a fraud. He did this numerous times. Now, we don't really need to read this article because we all know Jamie Dimon by now has bashed Bitcoin over and over. So here's the thing, though. Jamie Dimon has made all of his money. He is a very influential investor. Plain and simple. Whether you hate him, whether you like him, it doesn't matter. It's like saying, I don't like Tom Cruise, or I like Tom Cruise. Either way, he's made millions upon millions of dollars with his movies, and he's an amazing actor because every time he makes a movie, a whole bunch of people watch his movie. Although I love my late mother's quote. I'll never forget this. She says, the best way to ruin any good movie is to have Tom Cruise star in it. She did not like him. However, you still can't deny the fact that makes a lot of money. So just like Jamie Dimon makes a lot of money. So of course he's going to bash Bitcoin because he's making all of his money on fiat and investing that way. So it kind of makes sense. George Soros bashing Bitcoin, but now his hedge fund titan is getting into cryptocurrencies shortly after he was done bashing it. Warren Buffett says Bitcoin is rat poison. And all of his little cronies under him. Charlie Munger was even more blunt, saying that it's like harvesting baby brains or whatever he said, which was really, I think, a little too far. Like if I was his PR guy, I'd be over backstage going, oh no. I don't know. That's just that's a little too far. Come on, leave the babies out of it. And it turns out all these wealthy people are starting to get into Bitcoin now. So they were bashing Bitcoin, and these dates do vary quite a bit. So some of these dates are more recent. Some of these dates talking about Jamie Dimon slamming Bitcoin earlier than the futures. It's in September. So it depends on where you look at this. Now the Rothschilds, easily one of the richest people. Nobody knows how much they are. You can find articles saying that they have 500 trillion. You could read articles saying that they only have 1.6 billion apiece. I call absolute bullshit on the fact that they only have 1.6 billion. They are a family dynasty. You can literally YouTube documentaries about the Rothschilds. They've been around for 200, 300, 400 years as bankers who literally, I'm not even making this up. It literally sounds like a fairy tale, whose original father, their great whatever, I don't even know how many, sent out all of his 6 sons. It sounds like a Bible story. Sent out all of his 6 sons to different parts of the globe, essentially parts of Europe and some in Russia probably, and some maybe in Asia, who knows. Sent them all out to make central banks in the countries to become bankers, and ever since then, they have exploded, and then their dynasty sort of technically kind of died off, starting, I think, in the 20s or so, but I really think that's because everybody bought up the newspapers, all their friends and cronies bought up all the newspapers in the late 1800s, and since they've never been mentioned in the news, basically rarely ever, it's hard to even find interviews with the Rothschilds. You can find them from time to time. You can Google it, and YouTube it, but how often do you see that on TV and stuff? So these interviews are kind of rare and few and far between. So I really think their wealth is absolutely hidden. Do I really think it's 500 trillion? Kind of doubt it. But trillions? Maybe. Quite possibly. Between all of them? Yeah. So now they want to make a cryptocurrency called the IMMO, and which would essentially be a world currency, a world digital currency. So it's like essentially replacing fiat. And this is not surprising to me in the least. If I could hop into a time machine and crank that dial for 10 years into the future, maybe even 15 years into the future, bring up a nice future computer, probably on my wrist, bleep, 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 I don't even know, bring up my future computer and start researching on the internet what happened to the IMMO and the Rothschilds and cryptocurrency, I would not be surprised if the entire world is using one cryptocurrency, with a few holdout nations, like weird nations that avoid things like that, like North Korea, even though they seem like they're getting into the world now with asking for peace, although that's happened numerous times in the past, but that's a whole different story. But I would not be surprised in the least. I would just go, told you so. If like the world was using one cryptocurrency and somehow it was conspiratorially connected to the Rothschilds or the Warburgs or whatever other bankers they are. So, is Bitcoin a bubble? No, I don't believe it is. I think Bitcoin is very, very useful. I think it was overhyped a little bit in terms of its price. But I think it has been manipulated into crashing for a long time now. And ever since the crash of December 18th, whether you believe that it was manipulated all the way up here or not, what is for sure, at least in my opinion, is that futures did nothing for Bitcoin other than crash it and create incentive to crash Bitcoin. That is the key, is that now there was this big incentive to crash Bitcoin. Sure, you could do it before with massive market sell-offs, but honestly, the world would catch on pretty quick. And even with these futures contracts, I'm surprised that nobody has caught on to this or provided any kind of real solid good proof, maybe with documents from the CME group or whatever, that this was intentionally crashed, because there's huge incentive to make a short future order on Bitcoin for 8,000, 7,000, 10,000, 6,000. I'm not sure where they knew that it would get to. And essentially a huge margin short on Bitcoin. The amount of Bitcoin they probably made, whoever was doing this, or whatever group or groups of people were doing this, made an astonishing amount of Bitcoin. So really, Bitcoin and lots of cryptos are starting to get really centralized in the terms of ownership in the hands of very few. There is many articles that I have stated where in Switzerland there's these mountain vaults where people have been putting millions and millions and millions of Bitcoin into dollars, and how many hundreds of thousands of actual Bitcoin, or even maybe millions of Bitcoin, into these vaults for the future. So we cannot escape rich people. We cannot escape the hyper wealthy, if you will. They're always going to have more money than you. They'll always be able to buy up more Bitcoin or more resources or more land or this, that, or the other thing and control it. There is no escaping. So we all thought initially when crypto was a baby, we're all like, this is our baby. This is our money for the people. We can mine it with our computers. We can hold it for ourselves. It doesn't have to be in a bank. Nobody can take it away from us. That's just honestly a little bit not true. Sure, yeah, you can put it on a ledger wallet and throw it in a safe and nobody can take it. I get that. But if somebody has more money than you, they can buy more computers than you to mine Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was actually mineable on computers. Now it's ASICs. When somebody has more money than you, they can buy up the market better than you, and they can hold on to it better than you. They can crash the market. They can increase the market's price better than you. It's manipulation and not necessarily an actual overhyped bubble like, for example, the dot-com bubble, where everybody was essentially buying up and hyping up these websites that really proved to to be not worth that much. It's like saying that Apple is worth $1,000 per share when really it's only I don't even know what it's at right now. You could just Google it. When really it's only $100 or $200 a share, right? That would be a bubble. That's overhyped, right? It's not really actually worth that much. But the problem is with Bitcoin is can Bitcoin even be a bubble? That's a question that you should ask yourself because it's not tied to anything. And sure, it's tied. Well, let me take it back just a little bit. It's tied to proof of work. It's tied to the equipment that you put into it to mine it, such as ASICs or GPUs or CPUs, computers in general. It's tied to the development costs of it. But is that really the same thing as a corporation such as like Apple or Microsoft, who creates computers and software that people physically buy, and they have an amount of volume that they're producing in terms of money coming in and products going out? That's not the case with Bitcoin. So if you said that Microsoft, let's say Microsoft is at $100 a share right now. I have no idea what it's at, so I'm sure somebody will look it up and be like, you're way off. But let's just say it's $100. And, in a year's time, it goes up to $500. But the problem is Microsoft bringing in more money to warrant that $500? Or did people just overbuy the stock? And if that was the case, it's going to crash. That's a bubble. But can Bitcoin even crash in a bubble sense? Because it's not really connected to anything. Nobody's making, there's no corporation that's receiving money that is pushing out products that is equal to the amount of money or so that is coming in that's going out. That's the stock world. And crypto is very, very different in that sense, although trading it is actually really similar. If you look at if you've ever traded stock or if you look at a stock chart, it's very, very similar. It's the same thing with limit buys, orders, things like that, but it's just not as volatile. So that's my opinion on all this. So Sunny Decree, man, let's just chill out with the it's gonna crash. So we got Golden Cross. It's going up. It's going up here. Oh, here it's TA. Look here. Let's click on this, see what we got here. So exactly, here's some TA, and let's see if he draws on it. I'll show you how subjective it is, or maybe I'll do it in a different video if I can find somebody better. I know there's lots of things, lots of YouTubers that do TA, and whenever they're doing it, it just doesn't make sense to me, because you can put these lines wherever you want. You can put your Fibonacci graph wherever you want and just sort of subjectively interpret it. And really the only way TA works is if everybody agrees on a very certain thing. But if everybody agrees on that very, very certain thing, then you're certain that Bitcoin is going to go here or it's going to go there, and it's not going to do that. It's sort of like almost like time travel. If you do something in time, it's going to alter everything else. Because if you know it's going to go down to 1,000, everybody's going to be manipulating the prices and they know what's going to be. Or if you know it's going to go up, everybody's going to be buying well before they knew it was going to. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like Back to the Future. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and take YouTubers' TA and their ridiculous clickbait videos with a grain of salt, please. And you know what? I'm going to be totally fair here. Even take what I say with a grain of salt. It's all really entertainment, and it's all one man's opinion. So please, don't really buy into the fact that Bitcoin is a bubble. Is the end getting closer? Is it? He doesn't know. Nobody knows. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.